Okay, welcome everyone for the second day of this national seminar. Today, resource person is going to be Dr. Grace Lalkongayi, who makes this national seminar at national level. So she's going she's right now in Delhi. That's why this meeting has to be conducted through online. Grace, you can introduce ngay lo hian hei a thawna hmun he a chiang ma Department of Psychology University of Delhi thoklai me kan ya ke mani kan psychologist tuna kan budding psychologist kan student nei lai mek ta dan po kan perspective a thadsia hmun danga po tho theina kan hu a umani tik kha alang chiang in ka sia chuan Grace shim hi an lo hi a research hi a CV zong zong hi karon chiar chuak vek ton lova kan student ten voi khatin hmu na tur ani sia ma se tlem ma zong chu soi ka du a research hi identity collectivism le well-being chungchang ania chuan heta Delhi a tho ma hian Xavier a tho phota international le khami journal publication nei nga te ania khatiang zong zong khachu karon chiar chuak vek don lova to wang chuan Mizoram a root. She has a strong root in Mizo identity, as well as she has broadened her professional career outside Mizoram. Delight ka hi karon emphasize dula ay chunia heta identity build nget te si in a career chu heta ki aslai ta alan vek angkhian Delhi azuk extend ani chuwang chuan nulo nu huaisen ve tak nu thiam ve tak ani tikha shat ngal the ani chuan tuna chuan without further ado I will request Miss Gracie to continue with her presentation.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Melody, for the introduction. And I'm really happy to be joining you all and to have been invited to do the honor of, making this seminar a national seminar. So it's quite a privilege for me. When a presentation karon ti turi topic hi ki maina karon thana nita identity chungchang hi kangai pui mo ma chu wang chuanin vena po hianin identity development identity soifena hianin I perspective shang omta chu psychology big khatuna chang kan absorbing don ani chumo tin nya ka profile la hianin Department of Psychology te kan college minga kan lauziak lawa University of Delhi my teacher ve kan nia maro chu college shang kan no mawang hian ka thona tak chu Zakir Hussain Delhi College. The NEI, it is situated near the heart of Delhi, which is near the India Gate and the famous Connaught Place. So without any further delay, I will begin with my presentation. So the topic for today is understanding identity development, a psychological perspective. So identity development is one of the most interesting and important aspects of the human experience. First of all, let's try to understand the word identity. Identity kan tihanin self the identity po illustration le thaya. Masetu na chan identity bi kan soidona wangkhanin identity kan ti chuanin enge kan if you're all able to type in, are you allowed to type in the comment section? Can I just have a quick response from everyone? What do you think identity is? Thayam yan chat box yan in type thayam. O Esther en kulihan ba na para katiya life min chandu po kana thaytawa in on type zoi don me in ba right or wrong answer lawa enge identity to ani niya in chat ron sa zung teo zoi in minute ni ver. Identity kan tikha ninge niya kan share mizo chong pona thea and chong pon you can write it in English or mizo whatever you're comfortable. Okay, identity is how we identify ourselves. Very good. Identity chu entinge ke mani kha inge ni anga kanin hudan tina anga nyang tuturo mizo chongchan how we identify ourselves. What do we associate ourselves with? Any other response? Yes, identity is who we are. Yes. So who we are, the question of who I am, right? Anyone else before I move on to the next slide? Okay, so identity. So there is two aspects to this. One of the respondents said identity is who we are. Tunge kanni. And the other response is identity is how we identify ourselves. So entinge niya kanin siya le tunge kanni ti ka dang ti ka kan shengal pot may ni. So it's a very good start. A very good start, and we'll get to that. Kambi ka inge ani na ka kan soy don ni. Hmm. Sorry. Okay. So identity kan ti chuan identity ka tunge kan ni enge ni kan in shat. So in order for that to develop, right, in order to arrive to a point in your life where you say, okay, this is who I am, this is what I have become, right? That process of development is a very, very interesting topic, and it is a very important aspect of human experience because identity is something that more or less defines our the entire psychology of human being, right? Tunge niya kani siya le tunge kani le tuinge nge niya min siya ti kan nun ka kong tam taka apai shwai ni tu van chuan studying about identity development is very, very important. So the field of identity development comprises of various cultural groups, distinct languages, and norms from different continents of the world. So therefore, heta HBC no pangten ke mani na to na okay tunge kani HBC no pangkani mo Christian kani Mizo kani tu mi veng no pang tu kani tu mi veng tu kani tu nge kani kan ti ro ta po kani a specific many too. It's very specific to our culture depending upon the different languages that we use even within Mizoram, right? If you go to the southern part of Mizoram, there are different languages that they're using. Even the same Mizo language that we use from locality to locality, trong han dan big te kan nei hitero fiam thu, trong kam big te ka kan nei ta, chu kan identity nia kan I shat na kha Mizoram chu nga po na dan the wang le tu na helai local khom zi nga po a very na sat wang khan identity development, the understanding of identity development then becomes a very complex process. So therefore, a more coherent, stronger, and a more integrated identity in understanding the field of identity development is very important. Psychology chuan in zir tonga psychology student kan ni vek karinga vina lo tele hi kan ni lo po ni thema ro chu psychology zir na shimshima chuan in individual difference kan ngai po mo ni chu, but at the same time we believe in certain universal constructs that reflects the general understanding of how people behave and how people think and process their emotional experiences. So therefore it becomes important that to develop on the part of even theorists, earlier theorists, to come up with identity theories or the understanding of identity that may be universal. Hey, psychologists want test the culture, feel it, culture bias the connection to entinan test psychology assessment test ka sabrama ansiam to kamizorma kan mandu don chuan aman thengot lo ni technically it's a reliability to kan enta. We see whether those questions apply to our culture as well. But say, for example, there are other tests that is considered to be culture free. So no matter the culture, no matter the geographical location, everyone, if they belong to the human species, should be able to, be tested on the same platform. So anyway, what becomes important is to understand identity development. It's important to build a coherent and an integrated identity, understanding of identity. Coherently integrated condition at home. Lom tha mo so if identity so if athena tu rakha kaka poi money too. So we will today I want to talk about three important approaches to identity theory. So these are the earliest approach. Firstly, empirically, the understanding of the the theorization of identity was first attempted by James Marcia in 1966. But obviously, the first one who had constructed a theory around identity is Erik Erikson. So whenever we speak about identity, the first person that comes to our mind is Erikson, because Erikson is the one who actually gave attention to the concept of identity, especially in within that age period of adolescence. So we'll get to that. So Erikson has constructed this comprehensive theory. So this has been the main foundation of studying identity development, and obviously with some variation, even by himself, or another edition by other theorists who have criticized him. Anyway, so this approach is known as Eriksonian approach to identity development. Hence, the treatment of, be it in general psychology, any kind of developmental psychology, if anyone has to write or trace the history of identity theory, they go back to Erikson or Marcia's theory. Now, there are other approaches also. Obviously, a lot of contemporary approaches now have existed. One that I will be also including here is an identity development approach given by Dan McAdams in 1985. So McAdams, instead of focusing on identity statuses and the earlier theorization of identity, he focused more on the narrative. That is an identity that is built on the tradition of study of lives. It is a lived experience, right? So many other theories have also contributed to this focus on the narrative aspect of identity. McAdams' focus has been on personality development, and he gained a lot of attention in developmental journal. Developmental journal, kanti, it's one developmental psychology. It's another, it's one branch within psychology, which focuses solely on human development. So identity being a very crucial part of humans' development, McAdams' theory had gained a lot of importance in that, because he focused on personality traits, on personality developments, and so on and so forth. Right. So, but the general, the more popular approaches have always been Marcia's and Erikson's theory on identity development. Right. Masih hemite patum Erikson le Marcia, James Marcia le McAdams the theory it's the theory that has built foundation for understanding identity, and a very, very crucial one also. So we will go over these theories one by one. So in identity development, what actually develops, how it develops, we will try to look at this from the perspective of Erik Erikson. Okay, so Erik Erikson, in 1950, he came up with the lifespan theory of development. Psychology ziltuan kan siya nga hemi psychology theory abik takin personality theory te heng ang so itoba ni kan Freud theory karon lare memtani pero ka psychosexual stages po kan siya ta Kaka Erikson he extended that psychosexual stage. This Freud's theory was limited only till puberty. So Erikson was of a view that development does not stop at just puberty. Puberty and hit kan kami ringot ka inge kimlawati at so van in play role and then need so no kan intinge puitling young adulthood at middle adulthood te upat no te kan ingenge machine hi kan la in develop lom kan la in kimani kan la in zira kan identity te po tiang kanin kan la tertia ma emomo tun agent in an HP tuna undergraduate students in nita tuna in identify dan it's not going to be the same. Right now you are all assuming the identity of a student. So pretty much whatever you do right now revolves around being a student, right? So if you're a student, you have to study, you have to also, maintain friends, BA, your bachelor days are the times when you can actually have fun in your life. So you also need to take care of that. It's that time when you can explore fashion, little things like that. But then college step out, if you step out of education system, then another reality about life, that comes with life hits you, and then you'll be more concerned about maybe finding a partner, or maybe building on a career that could bring, a bread and butter to your table. And or for some of you, it may be very different, right? The kan parenthood ten nga parenthood ni nuwa katwanin ka kan soy de lang, okay, kakshang shanka lifespan ka pui mo tani. So Eric Erikson actually expanded that, and he proposed that individuals must negotiate qualitatively distinct tasks at each life. So Erikson was of the view that at every crucial stage in our life, there is a task that we need to resolve. Enge moniti to challenge kan na ya ti ni chu kan life stage ti na hian chu miya kan ti tu ra chu chu problem te po nyang chu nge challenge te po kan ti theng chu kha enge lo ting taka kan overcome khan a next stage a khan lo ting takin kan kai chauzel atina ni chu. So the successful navigation of these tasks not only reflects successful adaptation for the current stage, but also prepares individuals to navigate subsequent stages. Zia chuan, ha entinan no pangte intiro itor laranita emo. Entinan inte kan say, oh no pang beginner. Hey, to like to pre-beginner te kan neto. Patero Sunday school ate tin beginner department alo omta. Pre-beginner changa beginner nom hianin first year hi it's a very crucial period. Ine mani nu le pate chutpri lo mani chuchan kan zir chanta income puite kan chen mazong September travel board mazong hito travel me meitani Sunday school ate zir tu te nom to im ka shelawa mase makde me su khatikan midang bula anan zir ta nu le pate bulla wa chian komve chian te bula midang bula ve thiam kha anan zir chau chuan kha an task ka chu ni tani kaka successful do ani adapt to an come particular stage and achieve to achieve two main loving it helps them prepare to navigate subsequent stages. Primary department and hunate more in junior department and han chawanga ka chang me to lo khan ziak te khan Sunday school exam te khan pe ka ngai to ni chu the khan adot le ze la kha ashilta ni chu kami current stage and successful do and problem and navigate lo khan. So among this lifespan stages, Erickson was most interested and he emphasized the most on this stage where he felt that identity was battling against role confusion. Tutukan so yang in stage ang once children have been able to develop trust in a caregiver, a sense of autonomy, initiative, and industry, the stage is set for personal exploration of the self. So no pang ni achanga, no pang kanin inge nule pate changkan security muto ta in kim kanule pate nanzete to kata kachan okay kima. Inge kani ka inzon ngai to mo inge moni mani ti du naka. So exploration of self started. So this is the stage when the identity, formation of identity is battling with confusion in you, and to which another word is also identity crisis. Okay, so Eric Erikson, who is the author of this book on identity, youth, and crisis, he had written an entire book based on how is this crisis emerging among adolescents and how that sort of paves way for gaining the social maturity in their youth and eventually in their adulthoods, extending up to late adulthood. So then at the other concern, the question of who am I? More the question of who am I? Itakaka hetahianin aron address tani too. So this is Erickson's 8 stages. Now, if you see the mid one question mark or kami hemi hinitani the stage of identity, the stage of formation of identity versus role confusion. Titu, hey, up till you're a children from toddlerhood till you're at that age till 12 or 13 or so. You lead a very happy life. You're guided. There's that sense of security. You don't have to make decisions for yourself. You have someone making decisions for you. You listen to them, and then it's a very happy-go-lucky kind of stage. But since you hit puberty and reach that adolescent years, you start gaining maturity in all aspect, but not yet fully developed as young adulthood. Mo heta nula puitling mo tlang val puitling ti tak tu la ni box si lo amaro chu ru le ngai to na engkim tak sa phung te po puitling ang me aron in develop to si kami ai nge ka nia in tu na hian etin nu le paten en pon so hi adolescence lai to an interior ru na tele rebel te po mchin an ti na chan hi neta kaka Eric Erikson ton autonomy machine in autonomy nge mania ka ti ve the nge ka ni ti kanin zo hun lai zo chan hun lai ka ani awangin he tanu le party dependency tong a break out to si masela dependent thau boxi he ta independent hood nge rap tran tura in what say to le chak to boxi in car confusing look to kanitani so angai poi mo ni to Eric Erikson in fact he says that the subsequent stages of adulthood successful healthy development in your adulthood actually depends on how well you resolve your identity at this age. Okay, so briefly to talk about Erikson's stages of development, number nga na kinita kan interested better to when kan zentian to le kan focus na to so marutitan han entele ki kum khat klin khan chuan no pangkhan a psychological psychosocial conflict ane to trust versus mistrust kanita virtue to hope anita nge ala azir chwa to ti to hope anita chuan ama enkol tu kha toddler kha chuanin nge ama mo pe tu ti kha ashito tani to trust tani 1 to 3 years at one autonomy versus shame and doubt and tita kata virtue and to will and tani toddlers develop a sense of personal control and independence and to hey no pankal thei to boxi he explore do make a maklasha sila mo piang ko izel mo ko vel explore do no le pate he kai po do lo mania kalve cha do tiang chi khani tani so the will to do things on their own is the virtue that they learn here. From age 3 to 6, then there is that basic virtue of purpose that they learn. So initiative versus guilt, that's one. No pangkanin anma ni to anma ni life ko control ve an tum de ule katin social interaction te pokan ne to purpose kan sheve chan thiam ta ni to kilom zan man 6 to 12 years at one industry versus inferiority and competence hemi age Freud stage apokan it's that stage where you gain maximum competence in academics and sports and other things so 6 to 12 years to it's that period where you try to gain competence they develop a sense of pride and accomplishments and abilities and so on now comes the most crucial stage which is between 12 to 18 where there is a conflict between identity and role confusion. Heta zirtswak tura adu to erika fidelity etitani. Fidelity umzatu kami personal sameness kan mi na tur foundation build a kami enginan tumi kadu emo mo ring na ko nga te po ni may teta he sacrament zirhun lai ne senior department te sacrament ate chandam na ang chita kan zir to ta tiro kan zir chil to ta kaka Christian no na po Sunday school progression na po kan lesson plan na po to ke mani on choice Christian Bible thu te kan heta ka ani anga min lo zir te kha kan pom nge pom lo ti kha chu dan chunga min lom lo pon kan pome kan ti khat khat ta kami pom na khan in nun pum pui heta in Christian no na kha shil so don ta ni chu tiang de ojek chan kami consistency fidelity kha arin da pui mo ta ni chu so teens explore their personal identity and they try to establish their sense of self. Now, moving forward from that 18 to 40 years, that's on intimacy versus isolation. So this is the period where you look for companionship, for love, intimate, loving relationships, in whatever form. It could be, with friends. It could be a family that you build on your own. It could be anything, right? For some people, it could be a love for animals. Maybe someone finds purpose in forming a significant relationship with, other things. So the stage after that is 40 to 65. It's a very interesting stage where there is a conflict between generativity and stagnation. So care. Kung soblimin and they have this urge to need to give back to the society more. And by the time, people cross 40, they are expected to be someone with wisdom, right? Someone who can give back. So anireng bokta nurturing te mo midang tuan shil te hanzil te tu chan te kangka andu to chintani. 65 onwards, there is a conflict between ego, integrity, and despair. So here, the basic virtue that they learn is wisdom. So seniors, elderlies, they reflect on their life. So the outcome is successfully and adapt to one more sense of fulfillment and nga successfully ya ka conflict can resolve lot and regret and yang. So the book to stage tina kan ki versus antizel ki trust versus mistrust, autonomy versus doubt. Ta kan an zir swatura to ahmas zog zel kini tani to ka stage ni tur ang ka stage specific problem ka chatta kan resolve te lot a negative zone kan development ka kalve te tina ni so. So Erickson viewed developing a sense of identity, fidelity as critical to psychological health. A stage kan soy po mo kami fidelity ka kakapoy mo matini to mentally psychologically in order for us to be happy in not just happy but to have a sense of balance, to have a sense of balance in our psychological health. There needs to be the consistency in what we identify ourselves with. Now we'll get into the detail if it becomes more and more interesting. Okay. So Erickson constructed a theory of identity development that was very broad and multidimensional. So he says this is for a healthy development. So he spoke about three kinds of identity. Identity it's so ego identity, personal identity, and social identity. So the difference is very tricky. So I would want you all to listen to it very carefully. Ego identity one, its focus, the focus is on personal continuity. So it has to do with your internal feeling of how, how internally you consistently feel that this is how you are. Right. And it is found when one is able to integrate one's most important basic and private beliefs about the self to create a sense of personal sameness across time. So eta chungrila kan ki mani ni na kan kan ruput mang te pon yang chu nia kan ni na ni zong nia kan ni shat pon ni kan ni nge na kami zuk shat sian na le kha etinan ni zak zum kalau ni ta ni for example ni zak zum kalau ni ta internally. So knowing that I am someone who is more on an inferior who is more who say affiliate to that crowd who is a bit internal in their self-presentation, but because of the demand of society, I have to show an external, a very extroverted self, right? But to know for a fact that, okay, no matter what my outer surface is, I know there is that, integration or there's that realization in me that I know for a fact that internally I'm a very introvert person. So that part is something that I accept about myself, no matter how much I, portray myself outwardly. So it is the ego's power to synthesize our experiences, providing a feeling of continuity and sameness. So this ego identity is something that you are, by nature, let's say, to put in a very simple term. So this level is well captured in the approaches to identity that center on narrative as the primary vehicle for identity development. So making sense of the self across time. So knowing what you are internally as how you're born. It kan ni dan ang tia akha he the internally kan thak thelo kan pian pui mi za te pon yang chu kami shet sia na mo ka no pon lai changa tu sing pon he tiang ra ni kan ni ka chung re ngai dan le ko om dan hi chu ka zia te kha ego identity kan ti chu ni ta ni. So how do I feel I am remaining the same? Right. So it is the subjective kanti chuan eng dang mai na aron influence ni lo nang ma shim na enge tunge kan ni ti in share na kha ni ta ni chu. It allows us to manage inner contradictions and social roles. So hey tak hi achang kai na chu to mission kan ni tang kha personal identity la social identity kan la so if I don't ta mission kan ni chung zong chuan ni mi gang te na cheng ho tu te kan ni ta in college at norm shana oma tiro khotla norm shana oma tin mani shimin dudan standard kanin set up value kanin set bukta khangshang shangka enge kan ni du le kan ni tura min du zong kha contradiction khatamani chu kha the contradiction of whatever is demanded of you or what you show yourself to be, how it contradicts with your inner self. Kami shiatse nang kana puimo ememani to ego identity himo. So it represents the quality of your existence and inner coherence. Now, moving on to personal identity. Now, personal identity is something that you choose. You choose to be a part of who you are. right? It may not necessarily be something that you are by default, but something that you choose based on your affiliation. So it centers on how one defines one's beliefs or goals, which is represented in the negotiation of culturally relevant roles and positions. For example, your gender role, your sex role, right? If you're born as a female, what is expected of a Mizo female? What is expected of a Mizo male? Right. Mizo tangval ni chuan, what is the personal identity that you finally choose? Okay, Mizo tangval ni chuan ki ma tong na kanei turani katrom ngai ititani. So when you say katrom ngai iti kan internally inge mitrom ngai shim ini na nilavin Mizo trom ngai na kanei iti te kan tu nang ma ina affiliation of anga personal identity ini ti endorse de la kanitani. So the specific, often conscious characteristics like roles and values that define an individual that separates them from others. Midang nena idang lam na mo kami defining character to personal identity. So this level is best captured in the current approach of examining identity statuses based on the process of hetukanla lawang hemi and tintak ne personal identity alaw informed anti. So next Marcia identity status akan kan endon and it's more he's in the shit yam don lo chong an kan ne pot say it is the accumulation of unique experiences, traits and social recognition that makes an individual unique. It is the content of your self-image, like being a doctor. Right. Your personal identity is when you say, I'm a doctor, I have a doctorate in academics, I have a doctorate in psychology, katitani. That is something that I've earned. That is something that I've worked for so that I can put that doctor, designation in front of my name. Right. So my name is now then Dr. Grace Del Kongai. Masi doctor ka intingi alone ni dan ka pian ni mi allow. Masi it is something that I have earned and I have sort of included in my personal identity. Right? Or a parent or a specific personality type also. So ego identity is the feeling of being you, while personal identity is who you are. Okay, ego identity so ni heta internally feel like anitani. Atang chuan hemi pania yan clash chin den tani so mo doctor kani mase academic kalau tuireng chuang ne alo chithamem katyang te poka anite achu lawangin more I need a job, I need to please my parents, or I need to be respected in my society. That could be the motivating factor for me wanting to build my personal identity around becoming a doctor. Right, but that may not be in coherence with my internal identity, which is my ego identity. I may be similar to many of the students maybe right now who are dreading to come to college and to study, and you can't wait to go out of college. More reasons or talk to be a degree. Shim sun don kadu te poni dei thei mo khang te poka ani thei tawa amai ro chu reality then face angai ta khanga khanin adjustment hi ke mani chua ke mani ni na chunga hian mo he the internally le kan tu ma kan ti le tin min ni se min ti zong zong hi a in swal ve chin ta ni chu. Anyway, let's again talk about social identity. Hi ashang le ta ni social identity kan ti chuan it emphasizes on the connection one has to a larger group. So it is who you are based on your membership in a group, whether or not you choose to be to be a part of it. For example, HBC student din nita tiro kaka in social identity nita nito. HBC student din nina ka in social identity ani theita personal HBC student kan ni kan personal identity ang ponasrite social identity ang ponasrite. So to any difference kan ti chuan HBC student raw kha a chen chu in HBC emang mo college kan mga ka identity ka in keng ngoi ta ni a chen ro chuan hey a meaning student in ni ve mai chatam kami kaka in personal identity and seng load lo HBC student ang pon in behave lo so masi in social identity ka to HBC student ka ani thau. More so, that is the difference between personal identity and social identity. In this way, one is defined not only by the personal or individual aspects of self, but also by the larger groups to which one belongs, right? So not of your choosing, but because you were born to this community, you were born to this nation. Like, for example, Indian Indian kantita. And I think, as you know, anyone would be able to relate to this. Hey, Bharat Mata, hi kapangay mo. Ti harve tani sutiro Indian kanintihan. Sometimes I feel like we don't say it with pride, but we say it because, it's a part of our social identity. But we would be more prideful by saying I'm Mizo. Right, Mizo ka social identity, ka personal identity ka kai in terms of how I feel. Okay, so Tashfel and Turner, there are another psychologist who gave a social identity theory. Hey, social identity, he in-group, out-group behaviors. Na he big in social psychology, group conflict mo. Tuante po he kovela in donus tatero us versus them. Hina sa tani to pero immigrants versus native people to kangtaka social identity, social categorization, mga difference in namo he prejudice kantite discrimination zong ron iritswa na soifianan kan social identity bigtakin the one given by Tashfel and Turner has been used in explaining these intergroup conflicts. Right. So now we know that there are three kinds of identity that Erickson has spoken about: ego identity, personal identity, and social identity. Right now, Erickson says that the culmination of the engagement of these three levels is identity synthesis. Synthesis kan ti chan ama hi alom thatangay ni chun identity pathum taka nang maatil pathum omani chu trinity kan shiva ka tero ka tyang dong le kan ki mania etunge kan ni to soifia vek tu si thil pathum shang kha ai rom khom thatangay pi ni chu. So he viewed identity synthesis as a process of reworking childhood identification. Mohe ta no panlai achang to po a hey kan lawin identify na he nu le pa ta kan lo ngai sang ta tu ni role model te mo he social learning ka tam ta ni chu kami in chat in reflect chatte chuan nang ma internally ego identity is self presentation kha enge a coherent dan mo no pangkani line hey ti thlap thlap turin min trainer amaro chu ki ma hi shabi do me kanya mo chu in class ngal ta ni chu across time and context nang ma ini na taktak in shiat na le the commitment to adult roles that are valued in one's given society. To me, atanga puitling kalone chawanga tuta ke ma puitling ina mizo society ya puitling ni tora leke ma shimshim po puitling mi puitling kalone the nana eng identity ne ka assume kang pat kang zong ka a in mu khom thata a in shiat thiama kang shiat thiamna chang khanin tunge kani ti overall ka understanding ka alo chwak don ni chu poi mo ati le tukani. Although identity development is said to take center stage in adolescence and emerging adulthood, there are developmental implications for identity development in childhood. He Erickson to an adolescence period katu aron lens na kan question jan na titani ama ero to kami ka adolescent stage identity confusion overcome to kanin he ta no pan lai changa identity development ko kapoy mo vek pini mo heta a in ti atira kan so yang kan a subsequent later next stage apoka a soifia zel kan ti ka. And identity continues to be a developmental consideration throughout adulthood, till the later stage that I had shown you in the diagram. So whereas self-concept emerges in infancy and is viewed as a precursor to identity, identity is definitely something that is unique to adolescence in that it begins to develop during this period. Nga tinge he play role hun play role thara kan ti te play role kan ti hemi adolescence period nga tinge kami identity search for identity nga tinge khata han crisis ka alo na subversion ati na chan chu hemi kuma hian cognitive ability alo thato ta ni chu hetia till black and white ro tin tin and clear to alo ta in reason thiam to ta ni kan reason thiam to ta cognitive ability ga what are cognition? It's a higher process of thinking, right? It has to do with your problem solving, memory, judgment, reasoning, more critical thinking, creative thinking. All of these things have developed fully by this age. And there is an increased choice and responsibilities. Choice of tam chau to ta tro hen kuma chuan han ngai to ta ula pol som in zir chau chan pol som ten zir chau chan do na so pol som te crucial element kan ti chuan pol som pakhat chan in stream kan khang to ta khata khan kha khan he ta excuse me, sorry. Okay, just a second. Okay. Okay, so So then there's an increased choices and or responsibilities, meaning that mo purna kha kan nei chauchan to ta ni chumo ni chin ka seng khan to stream kha thanangai to ta ani chuan post som heti za ka mu chan science kan le thenga heti za ka mu chan commerce kan le thenga heti za ka mu chuan in inge commerce inge social science apo emo ka college ka school du na ka lu thenga chu choice le responsibility kha to ta kha mi reason thena te ka kan ne ya tin accumulation of experiences is enough for you to foster the demand of personal identity to be brought into existence. More ka nge kan ni ti do thena tu kop khan experience ka mission khan kan lo gain to ani so more hemi period akatan. All right. So what develops? Then the cognitions about oneself and the world shifts with change in experiences and opportunities for exploration. Hey, James Marshall ta next sense to rapoy modon ememta explore. Hey, na ka kan riru ka til explore kan du ta ni chu kan option shed kan du a kovel ka temchin kan do ni chu, which is exactly why this is the stage where people even fall prey to problems of addiction because they want to try out everything, right? So that sense of exploration is actually evokes during this time, and also there is a greater fluctuation in emotional experiences also. And there are associated neurological development also, the ones that we have described before. So perhaps most importantly, adolescents begin to be able to recognize and reconcile contradictions in the self. Listen to contradiction. It enge moni kan kema kan ni dan boxi di kan ni theina na tu na ka strife mek mo chata ka student de kha ka lo zirte khang zong zong le min ni tu ra min ron do ang khang zong zong contradiction o ma kha kan thri thiam tran to ta ni chu adele chu ban chan result fa ngai ni ka identity ka result ka synthesize ngai ni ti sense kha aron om to ta poi mo ni chu. So it's not something that has to be viewed that it's not something that has to be viewed as a negative thing. Rather, if you've studied about stress literature, I mean, can life a challenge from any optimal level, stress optimal level or any money level toki minti alert to toki challenge kan no na kan ma monti ni so to kan life stage ka challenge po mo bera ka he period hena ron china ni more. So James, moving on to James Marshall's theory of identity development. So this identity theory has been expanded from Erik Erikson's work, proposing that adolescents progress through 4 identity statuses. Identity status palia so ta chung chu thil pahni in determinati ni chu pakhatchu explorations na ka soi ang shared kan alternative zong zong shared do na mo entinan nge ka ni do nge ka ni eventually nge ka ni do doctor ka ni do te kan no te ta ni doctor ni ve do kan chak ta doctor ni do ringot kha nang ma khan ini do chan kha explore no doctor ni thena na ngai zong zong kha ive enin itlin do nem ti te kha explore chu kha exploration ni ta commitment chu khami explore to no khan le khami identity a khan iva commitem ka tinge yang emo ka tinawang ti khani ta ni. So it could be about ideologies, it could be about occupations, it could be about relationship. So these are the 4 different statuses: diffusion, foreclosure, moratorium, and achievement. So these are basically the outcome of how people handle their crisis. Crisis exploration, the crisis poti theto, ta crisis emo exploration khan depending upon how exploration and commitment in the different combination and permutation of exploration and commitment, what are the different statuses that comes out? This is what we are going to study about. So, yung kan exploration, like crisis kanti, in searching for options, more a time of upheaval, in money question around chanto, till can explore do, can reevaluate, more searching for alternatives in values. More, do I believe in it? Am I being touched by the Spirit of God? Christians don't say, can't anita in na do relationship at the point so kami crisis karon that dimension ng to commitment kati ka choice ka koy mo bera in commit mo money po in siamrema money po invest effort like dedication na ka identity role set of values iva explore akoy mo ber iva in even in focus na ka commitment and itani too. So the status is now heta kan endon ta status is chang ka endinan tutu ompotanga tu no tutu omati boka ani chuang lo ta he state of crisis he adolescence period in tran ni chau ta ni nuwa po omthei heta kum but no they are po crisis kan la nei rang thei ni chu when it comes to identity because we are ever evolving machine kan ni chuan he kan evolve sang ta chat nge konfi hun deuh kan ne nga konfi lo deuh kan ne nga life chu khatirang phani ta there are ups and downs khata khan nge to have to keep revisiting how you understand yourself and your entire self system. So while it is hoped that individuals move towards achievement, they can move between states. So achievement ka achaberangai anita. So we'll go to that. Hey stage shang he it represents different ways adolescents deal with the task of forming a personal identity, usually between adolescence and early adulthood. Okay, now let's try and understand Marcia's identity statuses. Masaber to identity diffusion, Anitani. So what do you mean by identity diffusion is there is no commitment and there is no exploration. So this is a very diffused identity. Many options po explore lao mo, enge ni du po ngay to chuang lao. Mo, chuan a enga ma ka ning commit po tum chuang lao. Ka Anitani, individuals have not explored options or made commitments. They may feel confused or unconcerned about their future. They can either be unconfused, mema any export to ponchila angay na ponchila wa mo engin nge malagdan to po angay to chuang lawan chuang lawa, or another way of manifestation of diffuse identity is they remain unbothered about their life. Mo, they don't take their life seriously. Kang tiang ka anitani adot letu foreclosure antita foreclosed identity as one there is commitment but there are no exploration. So here what happens is individual just adopts an identity, often that of parents or mentors, without exploring alternatives. Now the commitments are firm but it is not self-chosen. Mo and people even have succeeded based on this. Oh, commitment mo nge kan ni do po ka shi chang lo wa ka chung ten chu than tia mo pastor pakatan soi po interview na bd interview na atlin na chan tu nge iron interview no na chanan tia ka chung ten ti turin min tia ka pan ti turin min tia ke ma phe chu ka tum lo atia pa thu o yen ti le tu khan la to pen ti ni mo he khatiang de le khan commitment ka oma masema ni ava explore work commitment ni lo kan ka foreclose identity and ti ni mo. So there's another identity status called moratorium, where there is high exploration, but there is no commitment. More, you're trying every alternative, you're looking for options, you're exploring your options, doctor, engineer, academic, sports, more creativity, explore solving lautani to commitment lautani to moratorium based identity and adolescents are in a state of crisis. Mo crisis o many question o ma nun ka buaya inge ka purpose shot ka duti na ka umta mase ing dera hian nge life to build don ing a hian nge ma ka lag don ka umlo ta ni chu identity achievement antileta to this is supposed to be the best kind of identity status that is you have explored all your options. You go and you make a decision based on knowing what alternatives you have. Okay, so after undergoing a period of exploration, moratorium state identity achievement at a crucial veto, then individuals resort to making firm, confident commitments to their own values, roles, and their beliefs. So this is with an example, a chart. If you look at it, hey, exploration low higher oma adwaya commitment low higher bokta kan so masagber for closed hokatsu sorry kan so masagber identity diffusion leta pero ki exploration in la low commitment a low bokta. So I don't know and I don't care what I'm supposed to do with my life. That is the best exemplary statement that could define diffused identity. Then the next was foreclosed, which means there is low exploration but high commitment. I've made a choice without thinking much. No, it's given to me. And then you have moratorium, the yellow block. There is high exploration but low commitment. So I'm thinking about what I should do. So it may be dangerous to just to be fixed at the stage of okay, I'm still discovering. Kan nun po ma okay, I'm still searching. I'm still searching. Kan tira nga ma kanin commit daw katsanin identity ka buhay tawani to mo heta diffuse ang may tau kan explore bang kan buhay don tau. To some extent, maybe but say foreclosure identity problem on vet so kan ego identity zo ka feed lo chuan kan chosen personal identity kan ego identity a feed lo again what's given to us ang kan om top kha na ki na area kan conflict po om the him lo na te po kha thleng thei ta ni mo why precisely the reason why a lot of people have job satisfaction but they don't necessarily have life satisfaction kan te po so if you ever need to so identity achievement so I thought about it and I now know what I should do with my life. Okay. So narrative identity development here tober anya he kan soile anga narrative identity kan ti chuan it has to do with something the explanation of who you are based on your evolving life story. So it is an internalized evolving life story. Heta he identity theory approach it one past, present, and imagine future. Integrate katiang integrate kan machine hanin he kan identity kan form chin anti more. So the idea is to provide life with unity, purpose, and meaning. So the focus here is more on okay, what kind of identity that I assume or what I choose to endorse will give me a sense of unity, a sense of purpose, and a sense of meaning, given my life history, given my past and my present, and what are the the prospects that I have for my future. So narration of your life. This has been propagated by Meg Adams. This theory argues that people act as authors, shaping personal experiences into a coherent narrative that defines who they are. Heta hitwan kay mani role, mission kay mani as an individual can role. How we determine our life, how we shape our experiences into into understanding what is the narrative, the narration of what I have become. Mo kaka kaka amishinga ka actor ka ada po mo tinani it's mo ke mani ka kan po mo. It's not about what people expect out of us. It's about how we make meaning out of our life. It's a little based on existential theory ang nente po in zuzu yang so. Okay, so the evolving story kan tika enge. It's not fixed kan life experience kan identity static no tika and pomthot kan so tuna kanina ka tuna ka ruput mang le ni kan share na kan kina chana in fact thei tau mi kon feel lo tu po ni sam mi kon feel tu ka chwak thei chu kha identity kai nang lo ai a fix thei lo tina a dynamic integrating life contains a narrative identity binds together disparate life events and periods to create a sense of continuity. In life at hilseng zong kang zong ka lakhomin nang ma kan enge consistent ka thil I theme ron emerge ka shiat chan the na ka mishinga o man tita a chu hilpoi mo pathuma soite chu your trait kan characteristics shum kan pian pui mo kan personality poi mo a chuan enge kan adapt mo goals values motivation ti chu azira kan zir kan explore ni ta khanga poi mo a chu mi nu a kha intinge kan life story I integrate down how does it play out with the life events that are happening in our life. So the culmination of all of these is going to give a narrative experience of how people define themselves. While traits exist early on, the ability to create a narrative rendering of selfhood typically emerges in adolescence and emerging adulthood. So yung book in play role, emerging adulthood kan ti hey, we think tak kan ni ma si kum som tum ting ma ni buffer period hi adulthood adolescence ay extend to tani so head like kum som hi bora chuan machine enge puiting tak kan nei ngai lo mana te chuan tiro kan nu la pa kum som hi chau bora khanin ni wi pasal te ne hi ni puiting tak ngai khani to tani tun chuan kha ni nga thing hi chu alain extend ni ria thing te thum som thum kan ni hanin tu nang asia hi chuan ke ni generation te poneta puiting tak ngai na hi apyang chawani chu mo hey, trying to still narrate your life, trying to build your selfhood, it is something that is, a mechanism that is sort of at play during adolescence and emerging adulthood. So the core themes here is that redemption and agency, enge outcome, enge ron develop to teach us psychologically healthy narration, more redemption, and is moving from bad situation to good ones. Agency meaning, holding control of your life. Kaka, psychological adaptive narration ka ani don tani so chuan contamination sequence that a negative narration is where a positive good event suddenly turns bad. So how you understand, how you integrate the narration of your life is actually going to either result in emerging themes that may be positive or negative. So coherence, a strong narrative identities are coherent, providing logical, chronological, and thematic connections between events. So self should be seen as the author. The individual is the teller. You are the protagonist in your life, both interpreting and being interpreted, right? That does not mean the focus has to be self. This has nothing to do with I will do whatever I want. Okay, he kan shit yam lang chining ka chat on generation. Big in social media, hemi westernized, individualistic look to influence na chalai tam tapte min influence na to me myself and I ani chuang me alone self compassion kan ti te po hi it comes with a responsibility. It comes with a sense of contextualizing where how you define that self. Kani du tu kani iki ka kan culture omnete kan chung ko din hun te nen in millaw lutuk kang anga mani self ka inge build kan tuma author kani ti avanga ka life at one kema protagonist kani ni kan narrative identity na soi tuma ni lautani tu coherence ti kan in kim considering ati na mo heta in ego te personal social identity po ka ani talagang to at so it's still an extension of Erickson's conceptualization. Okay, so narrative identity provides individual with a sense of meaning making in the face of adversity, shaping personality, high levels of well-being. Well-being kanti to a good functioning life. Himo hi well-being kanti to nitani. Tutuan and thing and mania growth, mission growth, their redemptive meanings more. Til kan lang teach hello te mo mo conflict kan ne ate to me changa mo emo le khazira ate han ne to ata lang thiam thelo nga in nga ne te kayo replace it with okay I can do it. If I put in an effort, at least I will get some output of my effort will be seen. Kata a positive zonga clear na kami redemptive meaning of hamania potential and self-efficacy shats and te kanka ni teitani too. Okay, so development in cultural context, this is also something that needs to be considered. Culture, here apoy motel so the roots of narrative identity lie in early conversations between parents and young children about their past events, right? And cultural influence. Life history are shaped by cultural contexts, which offer canonical stories or templates for how a life should be structured. So, how has your development been? And a lot of misnegotiations and misrepresentation of how we view our parents while they were bringing us up. Had the resentment at the top, so to come to a realization that kun min hauran chinnate, min nagran chinnate ka nin mga kan ngai tuan par ka tuanin no le pa kan nin angin kan ngai di don ta ni to kami ni lo kan chatna turata na min lo pui chinnate tu na chang ka shethiam ve to ti na kami shethiam na ka maturity to ni ta ni to mo a developmental context and so not everything that comes from I have always been the target in the family, I have always been the one who gets scolded karingot ang productive the watil ngai to chwa thein ka to think cultural influence mo kan culture ya gan identity hi ashil tellu to kan to kan life story hem narrative and culture plays a very important context. So the application narrative approach therapy and mangnas to mani reaffirm nan mo negative experience and thing cognitive restructuring anti thayang purpose and thing mean mani ni na changa ni insha na changa inting and ong te ka an bang nasa china ni mo. So all in all, there are two cultures, status kanti kami, identity status Erickson and Marcia theory changa kan share narrative. Hemi two broad approach here tani to identity development, at least in psychological perspective, right? Now, there are other perspectives also, like role conflict, role congruity theory, the ante incongruence theory mo dissonance ti ang so te poka identity explain na na omvek thau ni suma se he pioneering theory le foundation there ani awangin to vela kan je talk to ni ta so what becomes important is for us to be able to hit atira kan soi culture specific ni na te self shim tungi identity kan soi fianana til shang can consider tel tu mo kan an culture te an nation ten ethnicity te an ni nan gender te kha ang zong zong consider tunga identity hi soi fia tur ani awang khanin it's important that we create a space for engagement to put scholars, people who are yet to, theorize. Maybe one among you or many among you would want to take up a topic on this and, decide to do a research and decide to contribute in the critical analysis, appraisal of the existing theory and come up with your own theory of maybe saying this is an identity development of the Mizo culture. Mo khang te poka tuna research te pokan ti chau mek te hi Miss Melody te po ethnic identity la mate atita in came upon hemi personality identity consistency lampang te kazeta tikhan through our research academic experiences we are also contributing continually to what constitutes an identity development specific to a culture. No, Mizo identity development tipo kashiat tiana ta ko mani tu zer tiana ta ko mani tu. So heng manghian tuna tipo kanin knowing enta ula headline enye hemi kanisoi box liya khan where do you fit in tailang mo heta tihan where do you fit in where exactly I am right now hemi ringot po hianin kung tam taka chang clarity min pe don tani so mo tuna in asia khan you're not expected to have everything figured out right now but at least this should give an idea that eventually you have to reach a state of identity achievement eventually you need to commit to something so that you make meaning out of your life that your life is at least in order once you enter into adulthood hemi hi kan identity status hi kan enge kan sort fellow twan timeyang hey hemi state of confusion hana omreng thaini chu inshe thamem hemi state of confusion na omreng hi ashisen lo question mark rungota nun man twan kha theve ta tani chu wang twan you need it's important that at least during this period between adolescence to emerging adulthood you need to decide on who do you want to be who you are and have gain a sense of control over what you think you are and give a meaning or give say a description to the definition of who you are okay so with that I have concluded my presentation all right so I will hand over the session now to the moderator and probably have an interaction session if time permits us. If there are any questions from the students, interaction, I'm open to it. In fact, I have there are many things I could share when it comes to the issues of identity because Mizorama changa le kazira ka hoa Mizorama kazir le kanin identity shock ang culture shock te ka kanay chale ni tumo kechipi te ka hey mangle tak taka kan han khotla kan han tile tak tak taka dina khang ka lo bo ve to ni chu khanga khanin ka identity ka diffuse state ka no omle ti khan I had to go through that stage of moratorium and then eventually the entire progress of my PhD was a very self-finding process for me also to understand who I am. It took me to write an entire thesis to understand finally that, I'm a Mizo, an Indian Mizo who is, who is also a Christian and, I'm a daughter. And, these are the things in future that I will want to take, the role, the identification, the social role that I want to take on. So this is how I will integrate my identity. So at least to some extent, I've come to a certain level of understanding of what I understand about myself and still yet a lot to discover. What I want you all to learn from this is to at least start questioning, to not hesitate from questioning about who do you want to become, what you are right now, and to revisit on, your existing self. Okay. All right. Thank you. Over to you, Miss Melody.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Grace, for your inspiring, very academic, and also a very exploratory speech about the essence of identity itself, which is very important for us, as well, especially for the students. I hope they get the message through you. I hope that convey again identity convey về cháu xe thì ha ya po kan cha du chuan ya chuan zo na nei an karinga kan nau te a hian hong zua ila in ngak rei na tuk lo ula zo na nei inom kha chuan kan hong zua yang o in in lo tong hri ani chuan chat box a khan in type don ya u
mizo tong po khan thei ve
no
ko
a thei ve
o
kan
mi
ya
zo tong puna thei ve kan ya mi zo tong
Greece ke man ka lo zot lok mayang
yes yes
okay culture shock iti khan nang ma khan face that troy so culture shock hi han nang ma experience atang khan han soi turin karon request se
okay yeah culture shock hi reverse culture shock hi alo nei thei alo nya I entinan ka Paul Saricen ko umswak ta ni chu Paul PG thleng hi po na ka zir chwak ta maro chu ho the pian in chungten min cha ho ta chuan full time hianin koshana le ke chipite min in man top zeltan because they didn't want me to miss out. So I always thought that a Delhi community ete po ka in mang ta mizo community po ka hey ka mizo life ka shet yam na ka abo lo ba ka shet ding like khan I college ate le school ate khan mizo umya na ka umna sata wang khanin I ka nge ka culture ka socialization process a big in adolescence years a kan ka socialization process ka mizo socialization I kan kami namdang bula ka omna socialization ka allow prominent tolu to kani so ka ron hole kan internan simple things like nge hey confidence te autonomy te le mani at hilti me te ka kan lamin train da na launi ta ka in socialize da na launi ta for example quarry kan me te ka internet hetang like te chuanin mania kal nu ka chalai ka to hey especially being a girl it used to be not frowned upon exactly but something that came as a shock to a lot of people I used to get comments like magnun nule o chantipon ron vela mani han nu ne nu zere ka anilo hey til makdang lam turani ti ka shelo entinan 12 ka exams o te po ka hey exams o te pon iti chaim kan ti ta mi zawa chan ti shalawe ti ka hey tu khu ka that's how you're supposed to talk more ma say ti cha te ka tinu zelta khang ang ti me he social etiquette me te letin til kan clear dana til structure there were more tu ni se ni me lom ti te emo in a social setting turn taking ang ti te mo seniority basis te a he societal system alo kalaya junior versi alo soinul ang si ka ang ti te ka omna sa ka ke ma khanin culture shock ka nei na chu ka soi tur lo inappropriate ni ti ka shat si lo khan behaviorally and verbally I exhibited a lot of such kind of behavior so it took me a long time to readjust to that and even to understand my role as a daughter more itinan khotlang mithi in kalte poka voi khana min ter khan thin tunin ka kal ka vatlai var tu rakha he ka thin kharim de utlat ni chu ka mut kha chwak box ya mut ka dosya khang chi me te kha ma se it took me around like 4-5 years later to know that mithin ron panchan ka kalbe ngai nu le paten kal ron ti kherangai lo ka kalangai bo kha ka in readjust lately angai ta ni chu and Tuna hian after having spent equal number of years now in Delhi akum sombe ka oma Mizoram akum sombe ka ronom leta tuna Delhi ka leta tuna ka le nu hi chuanin integrated the wintili ka approach to entinan mizo kanya ka blood to mizo kanina re don lo nga hindi thiampo emwan bula theipo ni ilang ka identity to mizo ni a Christianity khan he kachiang to khami root khami ka personal identity ya ka assume to ta khami chang khang ka social identity khachu ka va manage to zo he ka identity dang di wa teacher ka vani na te nam dang bula thiam to ka va omna ka ma cha min ti confuse china ni chu he anmani ka ta ka khanin why do we come thiam mizo bula ko mizo do we come lesia I used to think that I'm being a hypocrite more ka cha ta kan ka ngai chinta ma se ka tu na chan it is not a negative thing ka lower him deeper layer outer layer ka ashanga ka deeper layer chang ka assume to ka ka personal identity ka chu angai ka he ka chosen identity ka chiang to ta a chu ka social identity ka chu management ka thiam me ngai tiang zong khan hey ka resolve to tu chuan psychologically ka conflicted to lo zo khoya po mila shock car hey attend to to lo to na chuan thankfully.
Thank you so much. I identify so much with what you went through. Thank you so much.
I think a lot of people do that and people don't talk about that. So so I felt like a dialogue had to be started and say that don't see and not see it as a defect or a confusion, but it is something to be integrated, and once you understand that, you'll be in sync coherently within and outerly. There's a question, I think. Okay. Could being transgender be related to identity development during childhood or adolescence? I've been curious about this question. Transgender identity, so gender identity, so a sensitive could may transgender identity to biological component te atil de do avang yanin officially upon they are catered to much more than people having different sexual orientation ka identity ka to transgender you have to look at it solely from a true diagnosis of a transgender person. Heta childhood changa in manifest na tele entinang kan share angin bodily po a transgender identity identify te na katwanin to some extent identity development katso ashildon shim tani to transgender bi ka hitwanin anita tin Mizoram anga chuan transgender identity te po har sana omle zwal na tur chu hundanga po ni worldwide po ni thauta shet thiamna tak le uncomfortable topic ala ni na hianin an mani ni identity development po hi to some extent ati boy karinga in develop dana hi chu identity chu kan share to angin ein manifest na hi chu hetia an narration and case study te en hi chuan ein manifest na ani share na hi chu heta alone ni to tin childhood experiences sapo I've always been like this the unrealized to adolescence period an hit tho bor kan ani tho achan chu khata khan mani ro kan identity shang kan explore chana wang khan transgender identity realization apo aka childhood alone manifesto ma se a questioning aka to adolescence period a tang pu chana in ka chege ka share ve china chuan a in he aron swakin ka share. Okay, next question is, Miss, do you think Mizo men, not all, lack a sense of identity, as there are lots of substance abusers, although several factors are also present? Sense of identity hito may Mizo mipale it's a debate hito it's an ongoing debate right now, and to be very honest and based on my observation, other teachers could tell me, could supplement to that, but I feel the Mizo men who are dying of substance abuse and alcohol are of a generation that belong to that generation that in their youth time, adolescence and needs how they role drug school like hanitani to alcohol drugs ka cool factor in generation ate hitwanin cool factor ani na aka as with responsibility ni totani to kami consequence ka tuna hen kan hota Mizoram data latest health data kan death rate kami pan sanga mecha ain anti chana po khan alcohol related problem vega ni to liver issue stomach issue ka tyang chik the ka anita so definitely I feel that kami at least for that generation atan to tun generation omle tu re hi chu he kazir chang ni lo tan generation thar hi chu enge tharlak in nita ka shithyam lo ma se kema observation le facts te kan share lo to chan tun generation people pop how hi chu kami an identity I ma po a tila identity po ni thawang chu kami responsible identity kan assume lo no chu no le pan ho sathara he mizo vice style de lekin mo he royal family mizo ina family structure in ngai in titon role fel chapakatia division of labor kan nei anga chang khan vice style de lekati meyang so chana ni lo se royalty treatment hey all tura in ngai na mo no le pai na in kim ti sakna hey in duat na paisa in vurna khang kha khatyang hun lai khan alara ni chu khami consequence khan yeah definitely and sense of identity po and social role and personal identity ani turang kha in develop lo ning ka sha atin addiction shim to once you're a victim of addiction it's a lifelong problem, so that sort of the addicted identity stayed with them for the rest of their life. If the next question is referring to Mizoram scenario, kachalai puita zinga tumbul fu kan nei tlai lutuk he identity crisis ni thein ngaim. Hey himo pui mo lutuka ke ma experience changing ka shilang. So I feel like, you know, I had identity crisis only in my 30s. Honestly, till, you know, till my late 20s, I felt like I was in that foreclosure phase ka ke ma chuan min shilang pe a chan tiang pe he tu oi reng khan more min they say ang ka fulfill lo lang han ka chang na eme ke ma hi my entire life revolved around making my parents happy, keeping my community proud, and I was anywhere and everywhere and exhausted myself, and you know I suffered mentally also and psychologically also. Chu har zo ni chu har na chan hi kan collectivistic society point me their parents they kan dependent kan dependent really to ki autonomy hi kan fight har ka ti ni chu mo tu tin ni wanga he nu le pa te va dial cham tu tin na lam ne lawin o enge kan tumbul fog ne ya hi heta tu poso batang a shia chana ngai to tu tin ni wangin pressure in pe fak tu tin na lam ne lawin I think the parents and both the adolescents have equal responsibility here. Parents standpoint kami I think ni se kan ti do na mo he chung kwa pakhatal doctor mai ti wanga tu mani mats en mobile thiam do le nge bung ri ngot lam kha ani lauta no pangte nge an chat le chat lo na an interest ne na khatia alaina nurture kha akalanga chan adolescents a chan chu ma ni pon kan kal theina zong tu le dong du share chan na kha omta kami nurturing environment da kami enabling environment dan tita alo facilitate to environment kha kil tina chang khana omanga hi chu du than bul fu ne chu chalai te a blame da po ani thawa chan chu at the end of the day mani tho kan poi mo tamaro chu akal ko pangai ka ti heta hey a state level the cultural level cultural level te pong tane family level akal ko pangai ka ti hemi mi tu hi chan mo mania finga ti mal hi chu pian pui ya ambitious shim pe an lo ni tlang pu ya ni lo chan ni zo chalai chu ni atlang puin kan ngai to atlai BA tu na heta diu ka students te BA chan enge anti tu hi an shakal to ta ni chu BA zela interchangeable chan mani company ten lo nei to mo BA zela in khatyang te kha an ni ton advance ta ni chu kan thamwang rei do le ka ni zo community chan in claima kan advance the shit it's a chang ma say at the same time till to radres to ko ombi chang kan mental health here and suffer thawa there is a time and place for everything ma say khamia tlai lu to ka kha a chat lo wang khan we have to catch up. Okay, Miss, how can an individual move from identity diffusion to a more secured identity? Okay, diffuse state ni chuanin okay it could be an extreme state of idea name mi alo le care mi alo hi om the ta ni chu ni tum po ngai to tum chang lo wa khami tu ram halak po tum lo nung ve top ka ti me china you don't live you just exist ka ti chini so exist ringo thlan mi tam tak chu kan an china ni chu thamwang ete kan tiang thamwang mi zo tong kan wang swal kan tiang chimo ka ta ang thamwang ve chot ringot ang te kha ka tiang kan tin mi zo community le mi zo anwam lu tu ba nuam lu tu khi ka nge te ka sayang crisis kan ti kha har chalai ni chho pe chu he khotla nga le ko sha te ka ma nuam me ni chu ti lo tur ka ni lo wa ti chu ka ti lo wa ma ro ti chung khanin heta ru responsible ta ka fing ta ka te la ngai chu wang chang kan society ang chan multitask thya mahara angaya harbo chu ka experience changing ka sai the diffusion na changa secured identity to chuanin till kan content kan til ente mo hey teacher te tina to po nang mani teacher runga ta te po nge ask them about their success story more ask them about how much they have struggled what they have done to reach to where they are more take interest in the life of people who have done great things in life hey Sundays game out po yan in Sunday school so in coma hey pirinte IRS he to the lights IRS cutting at tira ni mo chan PhD cut book chan in form zero la khan no pangkan na nita aron interview kha ka ro na chamre PhD thesis khan zo ta soya he shat thya ba kan she thiam lo tang ka he kangai sang lu tu ka ro hianin tan so ka le in kom te min la kom ve ang te ka ti chen ka ro kha sa tyang kom the tu din huna sonin he tyang khan you need to choose the right model for you more be around an environment which can bring out that sense of ambitiousness in you. They say that you're an average of the 5 people around you. Mo to bang chuan identity crisis po khale la ma chuan ka changkom te ka productive lo rau me ti a changkom thak lak te po nam chin ka she cheu me KGP circle at te po mo in mang lawa ho me nun mang progress MMC lo atanga i chian te ron thau a khata nun ron sam dik du a KGP te ron ti a khata academic le chung kwa a khata nga te role chalai ron in laptop te po ka mo. That's a very practical way in which you can sort of change from a diffuse to a more mani kamo challenging state. Hanwe in that way, putangai kakan confusion. Confusion is a good ingredient for you to start exploring and then to finally decide what to commit to. Okay, one question. Since identity develops over time and it is not fixed, how does it evolve around people with low self-esteem? Does the improvement depend on personal factor, or does it also have to do with developmental stages? See, self-esteem himo kan hey Miss Juliet Miss Melanie tenena kan supervisor Miss Baby Hannah Sochina mizo shim han self-esteem he measure te kan mulo wati ne so za zu mizo to hey kan ja shim hi tlom ngai mo thukup khatyang kha kan nita confidence hi zakthei lo ngai ne kan ne ni chu mo hey self confidence kan ti ke ni turn over confidence anga kan translate thayang chu khatyang kha nita a generation pu nampu mangha kan konfi lo ni chu kan chezo ka tina ne lo ma kan nature ne ta kan kama kan samsuma chuwa kan hey de la ma chuan kan polaita harmony le peace te po he very peaceful state, very happy state po min ti ta ka chatna oma ma se self esteem hi ne akuvela kan oma til te achieve se anga isi chuan kan self esteem mani try in ngai na hi hey poi til poi anga kan portray lo ve chau hi angai mizo society angai han mo over confidence si lo amaru self esteem ti hi over confidence na kan equate chung chuan in a society han kan in rap bedona ni tu mani conflict taka emo en lo taka vo khan ediran academic discussion te in chan ho alo race ta ulan ni mom enu hi in la thu pui fun lu tuk anti taka twar chwa ngai mo twang chwa te angai ta midang lambi ni ta kha angai ta ni chu people with low self esteem and this is ka swang thau kan self like an identity to nurture the ani awang khan I evolve fanga a regress ve thei thau bok mo stage thar ka kaya khata khang ka kala ton lo ramani ta khata khan angai ten ka identity ka develop tharangai and nan enge academically I have established myself, career wise I have established myself, but I entered into marriagehood. That in itself comes with a lot of other social identity mo excel le ngai mo cha ni te zirangai mo nu pui cha ni te ka zir thiam le angaya society ya nula ka lo ni to lo ta mo he ki pe chu dele ko ma ka pasal Mizoram om ta ka din hun ka identity to na han he crisis ka om vele mek ta ni chu nula ni box si lo single ni box si lo ma se mani om do tho box si nutling han ti do nutling anga le na so se che si lo mo ka ati cha ke ma po low self esteem ti ha ka self confidence po ka yam vele ka chu amak lu tuk mission na theita academic thela kalvung vyaw in confuse vyaw to maila kami ka social aspect akhan the same community that I was so confident with more the same people with in front of the same people came at ka confidence le he ka dan tu te kha hey ka insert hale ani chu ka tyang te khan thil thein ta chu bang chan it's a very natural thing what is important is how you come back and how you what sense you make out of that situation. Kaka apoy molu tuka, yes, definitely improvement depends upon personal factors also. And developmental stage kan ti chuanin kum kan kai hianin le lama chuan please kan soeng kan development stage le hianin etinan taksa apo ti thechin te mo entinan I chatlai berte chaklo hun de ulai te mo thwak te po han chat hun lai le han slow down hun lai heta kan DNA hianin set sa nei ve shim ta chumi le kan environmental factor te kan culture factor te kan situation le kan personal factor kan zia ve shim ke mania kha a in tihan a in there a in swal chawreng a stage tina khanin ne ngai to me yang resolve zel kha ngai ni chu ne eriksenan stage tina khan conflict resolve ngai ati chu mo kha anita ni chu okay mizoten mizoram thwasen mundanga na thole khazir kan har satna chani kan identity akan chan lo wanga ni theyangem mundanga kan identity kan conflict puilo ai kan chan lu tum wang zok kan chang le lu tuka kan in affiliate le lu tukhi kan branch out do lo zok anh hi chu mo makdeu chu mizo te hi northeast ro ro wa po midang akan branch out lo ber chu min accuse na ni chin ke ma nge po hi ka kom zau lu tuk chung hian kan nam dang chan te hian in amak nga tinge mizo hi midang ne na nge midang a hian in branch out thelo te mizo kan num cham mizo chunga chong mei te tu na po kan la ti tho amak lu tuk kan thiam lo wanga ne lo kan identification kan sense of solidarity in dita community sense of solidarity hi mizo na fang lu tuk ani chu wang zo kan har sak zo mizo ngom kan ti lu tuka ke ma ni community an wam boka kanin hanga kanin di khom tel boka kanin du sak boka kanin hau lu boka kha kan har sak na chuni bok ma sei chu a debatable lu tuk atang hi chuanin hey internet tu po kan manipur unaute achang te pon is te ku tu civil service a injak hem ta lela ma chuan struggle na satan ni ta chun survival ni ta survival mina career chuan they given their 100%. Not your the mingarani to chuan they given their best to chuan lela ma chuan it's a very good motivator for success bizor ma chuan in bizor kan honga ing money nge modest living pon hey will lead a very happy life kha nge umbe thayani chu mo chu anin rokin ka sha kan tin chonga hianin ya chu wang tak chuan chong te po kan thiam har sabita kan thiam theilo wang ne loving kan real roi in hwam na hitle min consciously unconsciously collectively hanin kan ni vekin ka sha mi zo chu mo chu tun dia ka mudan chu ma se tun lai no pang tuna college student DMZP vela session kan nei pute chuan kan hun lai nen chuan he attitude dang to lu tu te ka fui dan chuan branch out route ka fatita mentoring ka vakal te pon branch out ru o nam dang te kom na saru ka te ma sen mania an try to te na no in fui dan chuanin ma ni mizo puite college ate po link da chang sha turo ten no ti dei to ni chu wa chuanin rin ai tak chuanin heta ron thleng thachin to hi chu an branch out na sa to chuan ka sha hey notice society shang ate po college dang ate po ka kalta mani Jesus and Mary College ka kalna po an society president ka mizo lo nya kan hun lai chuanin society cultural society te po tu man leadership role mizo la do nong ngai lo ta ki ma che ka kanita music ka tuiwa kan music society a khan chu po du lo chu chungin nor lui thawin ke ma po khan ka zium ta ka tyang khan he leadership role ngat pe chu bala ki kan du lo kan kim ki thina ni chu mo ta chuan hemi kanin u naw na kan he mizo community kan ngai lu ni le kanin identify chna hlau si lawa ma save progress thei hi ke chuan ideal ka ti mo va in hlau khopa va in lo va in nam noi hi chu ka suggest song lo bo na nam bo na ka ngai tho ke ma chuan chu wan chan tok cha balance strike thei ka chu a chaber hey so thank you Ms. Juliet. So if there are no further questions, and I think the moderator can take over.
Aban ngai nam ve.
Miss Melody pa hestay turang ang.
Kala speaker ve
Natuka.
dala dona is karon soy. I will continue on what Miss Grace cannot say today. So when my time comes.
That should be very
Tomorrow is your
interesting.
time.
Okay, Dr. Grace, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And also to our wonderful students. We can have this wonderful interaction. It's all because of you. It's all because of you are willing to interact with our speaker. So you've made this seminar a huge success. So thank you so much to our students and our audience as well. So if our HOD has something to say, we'll ask, we'll give her time. Miss Soidwina Yem.
They chuang lo interesting lu tuka ma se hun time restraint kha kan nei boxia
Yeah.
ron zobel kha ka cha gu tuk discuss pui kha ka cha gu tuk ron soi tang khan ma se ngin enge hun kan nei lo ma se next time Grace kan la tile don ya because tang khan interesting lu tuk thil tang
Awesome tolong. Yeah.
tam ka cha gu tuk thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Eng lo hi chu hemi kan students how big tan khan hemi chat hi chu atop mai do na mo chu ba chon hemi lova hian in WhatsApp group thewa kan tu na dar thum le minute som thum pani ania dar thum le minute som thum pasari theng in roll number in drop theyang achiangem dar thum le minute som thum pasari theng in nang mani WhatsApp group zo ka khan drop ro in roll number here Acha mai Miss Julia ti chuan.
Yes, acha, you're the chair.
Ole.
Oh, thabek.
Okay, now we will conclude our session. Thank you so much, everyone.